Well, it's kind of still dark outside, but that will change momentarily as the day breaks, I suppose. Brother Sam here. Haven't done a little video on here in a while because, well, kind of no point. And actually deactivated my Facebook since I'm not in ministry anymore. The whole purpose of that Facebook was ministry, and frankly, that page would probably hurt my brand as Root Life Coach. And so we can't have that. And once in a while, I get on lives on TikTok. I currently have a live ban on TikTok because one of the saints decided to report me for hateful behavior because I happened to say things that were true. Because they're talking about forgiveness. And forgiveness fascinates me. It fascinates me because, you know, we're frequently told things by the church like you need to forgive or, you know, your blessings are going to be blocked. And there were many times over the last couple of decades where people told me, well, you know, maybe your blessings are being blocked because you haven't forgiven people. I forgave everybody. And that didn't make a single bit of difference. But one thing I have noticed throughout my life is nobody ever forgives me. That just doesn't happen. And I'm cool with that. What the part that doesn't make sense to me is why doesn't God require them to forgive? No one's ever required to forgive me. Not one person who has any kind of grudge against me is having their blessings blocked. That just doesn't happen. Quite the contrary. If people find some way to harm me in a way that will have lifelong consequences, you know, if they do me some permanent harm, it's pretty much a wrap that they're going to be blessed. I'm not even joking here. Every single person who's ever harmed me in a permanent way is blessed. Their prayers are getting answered. God is good to them. Somebody make sense of this. You know, I don't get it. It doesn't. You know, it was one of the reasons why I quit the ministry. Not the only reason, but one of the major reasons. Because that's kind of hard to take. You spend a few decades, not even like, it's not a season, it's not a year, it's not 5 years, you know, it's nearly 5 decades of watching God bless people who have harmed you in ways that are permanent. You know, they've done things to you that you got to live with for the rest of your life. You know, never really talked about it much on this channel because y'all don't want to hear it. The church doesn't really like to, and I've done this on a few Christian lives. I've shared some of my trauma, some of my pain, and the reaction is always the same: hostility. It's a combination of hostility and contempt. Especially with men, you can't show any vulnerability. You can't show any pain because you're either going to be ridiculed for it or you're going to be condemned for it. One way or another, they make it out to be your fault. And because that's how we're conditioned. Because, you know, some preacher worth $300 million told you on TV that God doesn't teach you through suffering. You know, some guy who's never really had a genuine hardship in his life will tell you that. And when you talk about pain, you talk about suffering, you're going to get some contempt. You're going to get you get hostility. They get really hostile, man. They get downright nasty. And I'm just trying to figure this out. Maybe you're doing something wrong. Well, I spent decades asking God what I was doing wrong without any answers. Because, you know, God loves me so much that He won't tell me what I'm doing wrong. God loves me so much works on technicalities. It's like, hold up, wait a minute, wait. I thought the cross was supposed to eliminate the curses and all that stuff that was taken away in the cross, but yet you can be subjected to all kinds of curses and don't even know it over something you said or did that you weren't even aware was bad. Can somebody make this make sense? How everything works on these technicalities, and the thing is, it's not consistent across the board. The people are often referred to as God's favorites. This doesn't seem to apply to them. They tend to have it pretty good. Some of them will have some struggles for a year or two, or maybe a little while, but they come out on top. So let me get this straight. My life was made a living hell over a technicality, but the guy that likes to stick his pecker in little girls' mouths, that guy got a megachurch. Somebody, am I the only one that thinks that doesn't make any sense? Where's the technicalities for him? And to make it even, let's make this deal sweeter. His denomination, Calvary Chapel, knew about it. They knew pretty much the whole time. It was him and 7 others that eventually got caught. If you think Calvary Chapel only had 8 pedos operating, I don't know what to tell you. There's definitely more than 8. Those were just the ones that got caught. The senior leadership knew what they were doing and never did anything about it. So who protects a pedophile? Does a righteous and holy person do that? These people get to lead a 1,700 church network. But the nobody who just wants to do as much good as possible, that guy gets his life destroyed over technicalities. Doesn't make any sense. So a lot of times people will think, well, you're bitter and you're angry because you didn't get your way. Everybody that says that to me has a family. Everybody that said that to me has a career, especially among ministers. They also have a thriving ministry. So, pardon me, but it seems a little hypocritical on your part to say that because you got what you wanted. And it wasn't so much about not getting what I wanted. It was more like, there's nothing to make all this pain worth it. That nothing, that the scale, the tiny scale and scope on which I'm allowed to operate isn't worth all this pain. It's not. And people will draw their comparisons. They'll say, well, my life isn't perfect either. Well, yeah, you have like a 90 IQ, dude. You have no ambition. You're sitting there staying married to a woman who's cheating on you and has been cheating on you for the last 15 years. You're a cuck. You don't even have a backbone. You're not even man enough to stand up to your wife. You got no business telling me anything. Of course, you don't have much in the way of ambition. And in my case, and people think ambition is a bad thing. So you got to give up your worldly ambitions. Who says it was worldly? For me, the end game, the goal was always the kingdom. The agenda was always to do what I could to be as useful to the kingdom as I possibly could. I wasn't looking for the spotlight, goodness. My first 7 years on Facebook, I had no profile picture. Nobody even knew what I looked like. And oddly enough, I lost almost my entire following when I finally did post a profile picture. That kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. But it wasn't too surprising because I don't have the look that you're supposed to have to be somebody in the world of ministry. It's just how it is. Whatever that look is, I don't know, but I sure don't have it. And the funny thing is, at that time, a lot of people assumed I had a huge church. In fact, people would lie. I would get these messages on Facebook from people saying that they had visited my church and they were so impacted by the anointing, that it was such a strong anointing in the house, and the word was amazing, and they would like to come and minister. Some of them were musicians, some of them were preachers, but they wanted to come and minister in my church. I didn't have one. But they assumed that I did. And they were willing to lie and say that they visited before because of the caliber of teaching and revelation that I was sharing caused people to assume I surely have to have some kind of giant church. And when the truth came out, because I never pretended that I did, never said at that point, I wasn't saying that I had a church. I wasn't saying I had any kind of actual ministry. I was just doing stuff online because that was the only way I could do it, because I wasn't welcome in the church. I wasn't welcome at all. At least not in any useful capacity. You know, there's churches that would like to have me around, teach their Sunday schools and do the grunt work that they don't want to do, because that's part of the game. You recruit a whole lot of people and you teach them on being a servant so that they're willing to do a whole lot of hard work for free while the big shot is making all the money. That's what that's about. I know not all churches do that, just plenty of them do. And even when the money isn't big, it's still about getting other people to do all the work. And who's going to remember the guy in the third row that teaches a Sunday school every couple of years? Nobody. Nobody remembers the guy that did all the street ministry. That the guy that was actually winning the souls. No, they're going to remember the guy being on the pulpit. So it's the best arrangement possible. You get other people to do the work, you get all the credit and all the payment. And God is clearly okay with that arrangement. And like I said, in the early days of the ministry, nobody knew what I looked like. I wasn't after any kind of spotlight. I didn't even want to be known. Back when I did street ministry, I wouldn't even tell people what my name was. For those of you out there, so you just wanted the spotlight. And how come I was telling people that my name didn't matter? When I'd run into preachers who wanted me to preach in their church, why was I telling them no? If they wanted the spotlight. They'd ask me for my car, and I said I don't have one. They said, if indeed I was trying to glorify myself, why did I do so much anonymously? I wish I could have stayed anonymous. I had a much bigger audience when I was anonymous. Because for whatever reason, the church world hates this face. I don't get it. And the church sure doesn't think so. It makes sense to not get the most use out of somebody that you could. You know, would you take a Lamborghini and drive it at 5 miles an hour? Probably not. Now, depending on your capacity, you may drive it very fast. You can do 200 miles an hour plus. You push it. You can't do that all the time, but you can do it. You know, it'd be like you had taken a very powerful sport bike and just using it to commute back and forth to work. You know, 170 liter bike that can do 220 miles an hour, but you ride it slow. And there's a saying about those kinds of bikes. They call it a liter bike because it's the size of the engine is 1 liter or more. And but they say liter bikes make bad street bikes, and it's more fun to drive a slow bike fast than a fast bike slow, because that kind of bike is not fun to ride slow. They're not. Now, I know a guy who had one. I have a fast bike, but he has one of those super fast bikes, and he's thinking to sell it and get a cruiser, because he's finding it's not a very good bike for just, you know, riding around and commuting and handling your business. It's a fun bike, but it's not very practical. It has its uses, and there are people who do it. It's just if that's all you're going to do with the bike, it makes no sense to have that particular kind of one, right kind of for what you're going to do. The one I have, it's sporty, but it's also very comfortable. So it makes a good commuter bike, but you can also get on those back roads and really send it. But the point I'm making here is, if you have a person that has a whole lot of capacities and abilities, it just seems to make sense to put those abilities to use. And part of the reason why I even had to go on my own as far as starting a ministry was there was no room for me in the church where I was at. I actually wanted to fulfill the entirety of my call under the umbrella of that ministry, but it wasn't going to be allowed. The most I was ever going to do in that church was be a worship leader, a janitor, and I would get to teach Sunday school maybe once every couple of years. If you follow this ministry at all, you can probably come to the reasonable conclusion that would be a waste of my abilities. That's not boasting, that's not bragging, that's not any kind of arrogance or pride. It's just an accurate assessment of the situation. If you got somebody who can really teach the word, if you got someone who has the capacity to do certain things, it kind of makes sense to use them, especially if, you know, their life was clean, they walk upright, they have integrity, they have good character. No. Let's not use him. Let's give that mega church to a pedophile. Let's give the biggest church in Canada to a guy who sexually assaults other men. Let's give the biggest church in Houston to a Satanist. Really? And then, of course, we get the excuses that people make. Well, you know, the world is corrupt, and, you know, God didn't elevate those people, the devil did. Okay, so who's running the church? God or Satan? Which one of those two is supposed to be more powerful? But we make all these excuses for all the corruption and all the absolutely horrific things going on in the church. But we all know if, let's say, I was running an organization and that kind of thing was going on and I knew about it and I allowed it and even promoted the people doing it, you would have nothing good to say about me. Am I wrong here? So it's puzzling. It's quite puzzling. We act as though it's supposed to be that way. Who knows? Maybe it is supposed to be that way. I don't know. I don't have an answer. Wish I did. And you start to evaluate things. In my own case, it was kind of hard to take once I had some time to think about it. That, okay, like I said to somebody on a TikTok live, and I caught so much hell for saying it. I don't really mind the pain. I'm not complaining about suffering. Pain is all I really know. Pain and humiliation and mistreatment and torment, that's my life. I'm used to it. I don't like it, but I'm used to it. I remember towards the end of my marriage, one morning on the way I was about to leave for work, I was in the driveway, and I got a phone call from a certain prophet. And he said to me, Brother Sam, I don't want to get in your business. I don't want to get in your business. But you're so accustomed to being mistreated that you think your marriage is normal. He didn't know anything about my marriage. Outside of anything God showed him. I didn't tell him anything. Also never told him I was accustomed to being mistreated, but God showed him that. So I'm accustomed to mistreatment. So I'm not sitting here, I'm not whining. I can handle that. I'm used to it. I don't enjoy it. I hate it. But as far as I'm able to tell, I can't really do anything about it. So it is what it is. The part that's frustrating is there's nothing to make this worth it. It's like, okay, so get all this childhood trauma and all this abuse that results in permanent injuries. One of those permanent injuries, I can't have children because of what they did to me. So no one's ever going to call me daddy. That's a pretty severe thing. I try to get away from that by getting into Princeton. They tell some lies. Princeton withholds my degree for 13 years. Don't get to graduate either. In my graduation year, the commencement speaker was the President of the United States. I was supposed to shake hands with a literal historical figure. Can't get that back. And you go from that to homeless. You're trying to find work, but nobody believes you went to Princeton. You go to job interviews, then they laugh in your face. And it becomes clear that a lot of them are just calling you in for an interview so they can laugh at you. They're calling you in for an interview because they want to say no to somebody from Princeton. Now imagine having to deal with that for years, decades. So you're never really able to get established in any kind of career because those first 2 years coming out of college are critical. You got to establish something. so you can build your resume. Instead, you're going from, bullcrap job to bullcrap job. You're taking whatever you can get. That doesn't look good on a resume. And, say, well, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You think I didn't? Certainly tried. And there were many things that seemed to be a breakthrough. And one of the patterns was that every single time there would seem to be a breakthrough, it was always a trap. And of course, the morons will say, well, you should have prayed and asked God. Do you think I didn't? I spent decades praying for guidance, praying for God to tell me if this isn't going to work out, what do you want me to do? And I'll go do it, whatever it is. I wrote God a blank check with my life. All he had to do is tell me, okay, that's not the career I want for you. Go into this career, and I would have done it. He never did. Never did. Not even so much as a clue. So, I'd get a job on Wall Street, and it looks like I'm going to make millions, and what happens? They fire me, and they keep all the commissions for themselves. Because the way it works on Wall Street, if they fire you, all your clients belong to the firm, and they can assign those clients to wherever they see fit. So basically, your boss can fire you and keep all your clients. And if he fires you before that commission check hits, guess who gets the commission check? He does. So what do you think he's going to do? You think he's not going to fire you? Of course he's going to fire you if you bring in a big account. That's the way that entire industry works. That's how the big brokers do things. They're not necessarily good at what they do. They just, they have the right connections to survive in the industry for a year or two, and then they start hiring guys under them. They hire 20 guys, 50 guys, 100 guys, whatever number they're comfortable with. And they let those guys sit there and open up accounts. And then they fire them, and they keep those guys clients. That's how the big guys build a really big book of business. You really think that guy, got on the phone and hammered out, the couple million phone calls that it would take to get 3,000 clients? Of course not. Because it takes a lot of phone calls. You probably have to make about 200 phone calls just to get one client. Imagine 3,000 clients. What, 600,000 phone calls? He didn't do that. He didn't do that. You can do that in a couple of years, but they don't. You look at his book of business and everything's in different handwriting. Because those were the guys he hired and he fired. I didn't know that when I went into the industry. It took a few different jobs on Wall Street to realize that was going to keep happening. That's why I got out of that business. I couldn't make any money. So much, for the blessing of God. So much for, delight yourself also in the Lord. He'll give you the desires of your heart. I don't know. I know some of you will say, you weren't delighting in God. How do you know that? My whole reason for being on Wall Street was to be a blessing to the kingdom. I never wanted much for myself. And like I said, there were many jobs like that where it seemed like, all right, looks like God's finally going to restore me. God's finally going to let me have a career. You go to a recruiting job, right? They have this special recruiting system that's actually way better than most methods, and they get really great results. I figured a way to get clients that it didn't occur to everybody else. My method was, call the West Coast companies when it's 6 o'clock in the morning over there. Nobody's around. You're gonna get the boss's voicemail. And the reason why you want the voicemail is when you call somebody's voicemail, you have 100% of their attention. You're not interrupting their day because they're checking their voicemail. This is time they set aside to check voicemail. So they are paying attention to what you said. So you can leave a 40-second voicemail that's compelling, and sum up what it is your company does. And the callback rate on that was almost 100%. People would call back. And what ended up happening at that company, uh, my car got destroyed, so I had to work from home. So they connected the actually even before that, your company voicemail could forward to your cell phone, so you could access it from your cell phone. They disconnected it from my cell phone because there were a couple hundred voicemails in the system from companies that wanted to use our recruiting service. That was probably somewhere around, I don't know, between $300,000 and $500,000 in commissions. He disconnected my voicemail from my cell phone so that I wouldn't know I was getting those results, and he closed those deals without me, so he wouldn't have to pay me. That's my life. I've had jobs where I'd win a sales contest for getting the most sales, and then like a week later, they fire me for poor performance. That particular company, I think I was bringing them like $2 million a month in revenue. Somebody make this shit make sense, and this has been a consistent pattern. People say, well, the devil did that to you. Well, okay, let's run with that. Let's blame the devil. Why did God allow it? Certainly didn't make my life any better. Didn't make me more useful to the kingdom. It made me less useful to the kingdom. Just from a standpoint of practical utility, it makes absolutely no sense at all. No sense. But that cycle has repeated itself for decades. Decades. You get tired of that. And then when you start to realize it's never going to get better. It's always going to be like this. Imagine how that feels when you realize God is never going to let me have a family. I don't have any friends. No career. And so you might think, well, okay, I can't have a career. Maybe the kingdom is my career. But you're not allowed to do anything there either. And it seems an enormous price to extract from someone for a ministry that amounts to nothing. There isn't one of you who would say, I want that. None of you can truthfully say that you would want that deal. You see, I could accept being nothing special in ministry, okay? I could accept being nothing special in ministry, okay? I'm not supposed to have anything in that area. I'm just supposed to be some nobody. Okay, great. Can I have a career? No, that's not allowed. Can I have a family? No, that's not allowed. Can I have friends? No, that's not allowed. So, when you realize that God has absolutely nothing for you except pain, humiliation, degradation, and the kind of spiritual warfare that leaves you traumatized with serious PTSD that he has no intention of healing, it's not worth it. And it sure doesn't make any sense at all. Some of you say, well, maybe you need to think it through, pray it through. Over the years, I've probably spent more than 10,000 hours in prayer. No answers. And most of that time wasn't asking stuff for myself. I almost never asked for anything for me. And it's amazing when you don't even want much for yourself, and the answer's still no. So none of this makes any sense. It doesn't even make sense for the kingdom. It doesn't benefit. How does the kingdom benefit from my misery? It doesn't. So for anybody saying you should go back into the ministry, yeah, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. God can send one of his darling pedophiles. He can send one of his favorite rapists. He can send one of his lovely prophets that do nothing but milk everybody for their money. He can send one of them and do it.